Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Star Wars Theory. Today we will discuss something not covered much, and that is how does one become a Sith? What are the tests and processes required to pledge your allegiance to a new master, and ultimately seal your fate to the dark side of the Force? Entering Sith Training was somewhat similar to that of entering a private school for the elite. It relied on academic institutions for teaching prospective Sith, while the Rule of Two relied on a much more exclusive system for finding and recruiting new students. The Sith made sure their system was held in high regards, as a much greater standard was needed for choosing, since only 2 Sith would be around, compared to all of the Jedi in the galaxy. To enter the Sith Academy depended heavily on the rules of the head of the specific organization that the apprentice would enter. Under Darth Revan's empire, for example, prospective students needed to be sponsored by an academy or an academy's instructor, much like that of an athlete today would be sponsored by a company. Whereas while under Lord Khan, the requirement appeared to be Force-sensitive and the rigorous training regimes were structured to weed out the candidates unable to surpass the course. Much like how in X-Men Professor Xavier would take in any person who had powers of some kind, whereas Magneto only took the most sinister and powerful mutants worthy of his side. I'm going to read to you a quote that I found which I really like. It shows the mindset of the Sith, which we don't get to see a lot of. It's by Lumia, who is a character in the book Bloodlines. She was watching over Jason and Luke's young son, Ben. The quote reads, "Taking the life of an innocent is always harder even than taking your own, if you're sincere. This is the ultimate test of selflessness. Whether you're ready to face unending emotional pain, true agony to gain the power to create peace and order for billions of total strangers. That is a sacrifice. To be vilified by others, by people you know and care for, and for your personal sacrifice to be totally unknown to those billions you save. To do your duty as a Sith. To do your duty for the good of the galaxy. It's easy to be a clean-cut hero slaying monsters. There's always a little bit of vanity in it. There can be no room for vanity or pride in being despised." This stretches much clarity on the fact that sacrifice was not necessarily the focal point for a Sith's training, but rather as a test of the applicant's true dedication, and thus prodded the adept to kill a loved one, sealing their fate to the darkness and proving their allegiance to their master. It usually happened near the beginning of their full training to ensure commitment, versus Darth Caedus performed his near the end, his sacrifice being his aunt, Mara Jade Skywalker. Darth Maul's test, however, was an anomaly. As he was taken by Sidious from a young age and trained under him with grueling tests, Maul's only attachment was to Sidious, who ultimately made him prove his loyalty by sacrificing his attachment to his master, demonstrating the desire to kill him, in which Maul proved his worth. It's very twisted, isn't it? In the case of Anakin Skywalker, he had to merely facilitate in the death of Mace Windu. When he cut off his hand, it was the test Sidious was waiting for, as he allowed himself to be electrocuted by Master Windu's blade reflection before unleashing his wrath. During the reign of Darth Revan, his normal class sizes would consist of 3 to 4 individuals who would learn from a single instructor. During Khan's reign, the number was increased to well over 20. Under this system, the training was highly competitive, with all the students vying for recognition. The most gifted students were often praised and glorified, while the weak ones were pushed out of training. In addition to the classroom instruction, students were expected to study and practice on their own. According to Darth Sidious, the purpose of Sith training was to force the apprentice to struggle for every scrap of knowledge she attained. Conversely, the master withheld as much as possible for as long as possible, the goal being to prolong his or her own life for as long as they could. Sidious also cautioned that while an apprentice strong enough to serve as an effective agent or enforcer was practically required, one must be careful not to choose an apprentice who is too strong or able. Now, if you were Darth Sidious's apprentice, your Sith training was considered to be one of the most grueling and difficult in the galaxy. His purpose was for you to struggle for every bit of knowledge he attained. Conversely, he withheld as much of his teachings as he could, as his goal was to prolong his own life for as long as possible. Sidious also warned that when choosing a trusted apprentice, one must be wary to never pick an apprentice stronger than the master, which makes me wonder why he chose Anakin. Training consisted of rudimentary lightsaber tactics and then helping the student master which fighting style suited them the best. Each Sith Lord had different methods, each focusing on combat style and variations of the dark side. For example, Darth Malak had a sparring ring with several cages holding Republic prisoners of war, who were used as test subjects for his students who would duel them in lethal fights to the death. Sometimes, the cages would also contain beasts captured from the local wilderness, and trainees would be graded on their performance against them. Regardless who the master was and what their favorite training style taught, they all heavily focused on mastering and teaching the art of concealment. Abilities such as Force Stealth were stressed, as Sith frequently had to move about public places but needed to remain hidden from the Jedi. Particularly, in the Rule of Two, Sith Lords refined the technique so well that they would be able to sit across from the most powerful Jedi in the room and remain unnoticed. This is how Chancellor Palpatine clouded the Jedi and even Yoda's ability to sense the very threat under their noses, remaining benevolent. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I really liked writing it and researching beyond my knowledge on the subject. I also hope you're all reading up on your Star Wars facts, because I'll be asking a difficult question for the contest coming up in less than 2 weeks' time, which you can all enter on my Facebook page when the time comes. I saw some of the work done on the fan film I created for you all, and it's looking absolutely unreal. I'm beyond excited to show it all to you in the video that outlines the contest. I wish you all a good day or night wherever you are watching this. Think deep and judge well, my fellow Jedi and Sith brothers, and as always, my friends,
may the Force be with you.
Now, fulfill your destiny.